Alright, so I'm going to be doing a review on the New Republic E-Wing versus Shin Hati Starfighter. So, the set released in September of 2023 for a retail price of $110, and it has set number 75364, 1,056 pieces, an age rating of 9 plus, and 5 minifigures. And I do really like the box art, and this is the back of the box. So, our first figure is Captain Porter, which is the E-Wing pilot. And he does have a pretty good print on his torso and legs. I definitely like all the detailing on his torso with the little pouch and the tubing. But the straps on his legs don't really match with his torso, which is a bit annoying. But I'm a pretty big fan of this helmet. I do like the X-Wing pilot helmet in blue. I think it looks pretty good. And it does have some decent printing on it. And his face print, I think, looks pretty good. He does, of course, have the chin strap and the visor. And he does have a pretty good second face. It is just him without the visor and chin strap. And there was actually a hairpiece included. And this is his back print. The second figure is this New Republic astromech droid. And it looks pretty good. A lot of people have dubbed this character the IKEA droid, given its color scheme, which I do find pretty funny. But I do like the yellow and blue on an astromech droid. I think it looks pretty good. The printing on his torso does look pretty nice. And he also has pretty good printing on his domed head, which does wrap all the way around. But in some cases on astromech droids, the print on the dome can be a bit slanted. And also, technically, the blue on the dome doesn't exactly match with his torso, but it's close enough. It's not egregious or anything. But I definitely wish he included a back print. I think that would have just made the figure a lot better. But it seems like LEGO is only going to give a back print to R2-D2. We also get Morgan Elsbeth. And it is a pretty good figure. I do like her dark red robes. I think that all looks pretty nice, especially with a lighter red underneath. And if you're curious, the newer Morgan Elsbeth did use the exact same torso. And her hairpiece, I think, does look pretty good. It is very unique. And the figure does actually use this relatively newer skin tone. And she does include this pretty nice skirt piece. And her back print is decent. And this is her second face. We also get Shin Hati. And she is a pretty good figure. I do like the printing on her torso and legs. I think that looks pretty nice, especially the little Padawan braid. And she does have these flat silver arms, which I think looks pretty nice. And I do like her hairpiece. And her face print does look pretty good. But for some reason, the figure included a red lightsaber blade, even though in the Ahsoka show, her lightsaber is definitely a more orange color, which is especially annoying considering LEGO has made an orange lightsaber blade piece, which came in multiple sets. And this is her second face, and she does have a pretty good back print. And I definitely wish that LEGO included a cape for this figure, just because I feel like a simple dark brown cape makes the figure look a lot better. And our final figure is Baylan Skoll. And this is definitely a very good figure. I definitely feel like LEGO captured the late Ray Stevenson pretty well. The printing on his torso and legs does look pretty nice. There is even some dark green detailing on his torso. And he does use the slick back hairpiece in gray. And he of course has his white beard and even some gunmetal gray arms. And his second face does look pretty good. And so does his back print. And he also included a red lightsaber, even though an orange lightsaber would have been better. And I also feel like this figure should have included a cape. And maybe even a hood. And overall, this is definitely a pretty good minifigure selection. I feel like 5 figures was a very good amount for this set. And they were all done pretty well. I don't really have any major complaints about any of them. But I definitely wish that Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati included capes and orange lightsaber blades. But I mean, overall, pretty good minifigures. But now for the actual builds. First, let's talk about the Republic E-Wing. First, for the whole cockpit area, they do use this same X-Wing windshield piece, which I feel like looks pretty good. It does have a very nice print on it. And the whole front nose does look very nice. I do like the angle they were able to achieve because they used some of those hinge pieces. And there is a sticker right there and some nice detailing on the side. And you can, of course, just open up the cockpit, and there's some nice space in there. There is, of course, the standard LEGO Star Wars control panel, and you can, of course, put a figure in just like that and close it up. And I mean, they do look pretty good. And one pretty cool feature with this whole thing is that the whole seat just comes out, because there is actually a whole storage area under it. So you can put the minifigures blaster. I mean, that is a very cool feature, but I only really have one very minor complaint with it, and that's just, I kind of wish that you were able to fit the minifigures hairpiece. And the wings do look very good. I definitely like the whole angle they were able to achieve. There is actually a hinge right here, so you could adjust this just a bit, but it's supposed to be like that. And there's a sticker right there, a pretty nice blaster, and a very good engine design, even with some pink thrust. Otherwise, the wings do look pretty good. I definitely like that blue stripe. And there is a sticker right there and there. And I do kind of wish they were prints. And as you might have noticed, there is a stud shooter right there. And we all know how those work. You push down and then they fire. And luckily with this build, I don't think that the stud shooter is that big of a detractor. It doesn't look particularly good, but it doesn't stick out too much. At least compared to a lot of other builds. And it is obviously the exact same on the other side. And there is some very nice detailing on the top. And a bit at the back. And right here is where you would put the astromech droid. If you're curious, that's what it looks like on the inside. And the astromech can easily slide in. And he does look pretty good. And one of the best things with this build has to be the landing gear, because it is also retractable. There are 3 points, there, and right there. And you can actually see a bit of the structure of the wings. And you can just fold up the landing gear, just like that, and like that. And when the landing gear is folded up, it does look pretty good. The landing gear isn't a big detractor, except the front one. You can see it a bit more than I would probably want to. But I mean, still, retractable landing gear is very nice. And if you wanted to fly around something, I would generally recommend that you hold it from the back. So, now for Shin Hati Starfighter. And one thing that I think is pretty cool about the build, and just with the design of the ship in general, is that it reminds me a lot of a World War II plane, which is pretty interesting. There is, of course, the whole cockpit area, and the windshield does look very nice. I do just like this piece in general. It does have a pretty good print on it, and you can, of course, open it up to put a figure in. The area inside the cockpit isn't too detailed, but it doesn't really have to be. But luckily, there is actually a unique control panel, which is pretty nice because LEGO absolutely loves to use this control panel. So it is always nice when LEGO gives us a unique one. But you can, of course, put a figure in, just like that, and close it up. And they do look very good inside. And something cool is that behind it, there is actually an area to put the lightsaber right there, which I think is pretty cool. At the front, there are some blasters, which look pretty nice. There are also 2 stud shooters on both sides, which definitely stick out a lot more than the E-Wing, but they don't look terrible. These are also pretty simple. You just push down and they fire. I don't think I really need to show you guys at this point. One interesting thing about this build is that it's actually not symmetrical. As you can see, the wings are not the same. They do have slight differences. And some people could find that annoying, but I think it makes it pretty cool. And the wings themselves do look very nice. The shaping of them was done pretty well. And also these little end spire things. I'm not really sure what they are exactly, but I think they look pretty cool. And there are a couple stickers on the builds, which is supposed to represent the paint chipping off, because this whole thing is meant to be like an older, more rusted down ship, which I think is pretty cool. And the whole engine does look very nice. I didn't like the shaping they were able to accomplish. And I do like that little printed tile they were able to put. And back to this area, you can actually take this whole thing off. And there is some space in there. And you can also take this thing out. And I'm not entirely sure what this space is meant for exactly. I mean, you could store some of the extra studs for the stud shooters, like, in there. But there is still a lot of space in there. And one thing that I find pretty funny is that you can actually fit a whole minifigure in here. And I don't think that was intentional, but I still think it's kind of funny. And if you're curious, this is the bottom of the ship. It wasn't nearly as detailed as the top. And it didn't really have to be, because you're not really going to be seeing this much. But they do use some of those inverted trans tiles. And if you were to fly this thing around, I would generally recommend that you hold it right here. But should you pick up the set? I mean, honestly, yeah, I would personally recommend it. Just because both builds look great, all the figures were done very well, and plus, I feel like the price isn't terrible, especially for what you're getting. And if you have been eyeing the set, I would personally recommend that you pick it up soon, just because from what I've seen, it appears that this set is going to retire by the end of 2024, but its shelf life might get it extended to next year. So overall, I would give this set about an 8.5 out of 10. And if you're curious, these stands were not included.